Hei og velkommen til å følge oss i Åpne Dører en halvtime. I dag så har vi en helt spesiell gjest i studio. Det er Gilbert Hovsepian fra Iran. Han opplevde å miste sin far som 17-åring da han ble martyr for sin tro. Welcome, Gilbert. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Good to be back.
In the first program, you shared about what happened to your father when he died as a martyr. You were 17. And now we will hear about what happened after.
A lot of things happened after, and praise the Lord for God's goodness that He does not leave us alone. First thing that I want to mention that I did not mention in the last program is that I never asked why this happened. Why was never a question. What was the question? Because the why is obvious. If we follow you, if we share our faith, just like Dad did, there will be persecution. It's not a surprise. The Bible clearly talks about it. But what is it that I need to learn? What is it that I need to do? What is it that you can do? So many whats. And I surrendered to God, even though I hated Muslims, as I mentioned in the last program. But I surrendered to God. And I felt that, I felt the reality. I don't have a father. I felt the need for a father that is not there. But God is so gracious, so loving that He did a miracle. I call this a miracle, the story that I want to share. It was 3 months after my dad's martyrdom. I play piano, so at that time the church buildings were not shut down. They were open, so we had a church building. I was in the church building getting ready to go to the main sanctuary upstairs to play the piano for the service. Maybe it was 5 minutes before the service. And I had been in that church for so long, for many, many years, so I knew everybody. But then this little girl, maybe 6, 7 years old, very cute girl with a ponytail, came up to me. She said, "Gilbert," she knew my name, "do you have a father?" That's the question she asked. That affected me.
She knew your name, but you didn't know her.
I didn't know her at all, even though I was raised in that church. And we didn't have newcomers because if a newcomer came, they had to be checked. We had to know who's coming. So it was almost impossible for this girl to be there. I don't know. That question affected me. I said, "No, I don't have a father." But I was reminded that I don't have a father. She came after maybe 20 seconds or so. She said, "Gilbert, do you have a father?" And I had some tears, because I was reminded that for the rest of my life, I can't use the word father. I can't say dad, daddy, that's it. I was really sad about that. I said, "No, I don't have a father." She's like, "Okay." She left. After 20 seconds, she came back. She's like, "Gilbert, do you have a father?" I was crying like a little baby. I was shaking. I was crying. I said, "No, I don't have a father. Leave me alone. I don't have a father." Then she looked at me in a very, very deep way. And she's only 6, 7, very, very little girl. She said, "Gilbert, you do have a father." And she left. Every time I say this story, it affects me. It's been 30 years. But at that moment, I felt that the Lord God the Father is standing next to me and is hugging me and is saying, "Gilbert, you do have a father. I am your father." He has been a good father for 30 years.
Yeah.
And He has shown His love to me a lot. I was so affected by that message, that profound message that girl gave me. So I wanted to find that girl to thank her for that message, because I knew that this was from the Lord. And she became a vessel. I could not find the girl. Everywhere in the church I could not. I went to the ushers. I'm like, there was a little girl, 6, 7 years old, with a ponytail. She had this dress, black dress. They said, "No, there was no such a girl. We know everybody. We were by the door. So whoever came in, we saw." She wasn't there. And we didn't have cameras for me to check. So I could not find that girl ever. I personally believe she was an angel. I don't know, but the message that she gave me was from the Lord, that
Yes.
I am your father.
He wanted you to know that, yeah, that you were not fatherless,
Yes.
and you will never be.
Yes. In those first couple of months, God spoke to us in different ways. A couple of times I had dreams, which were very, very, some of the, I won't get into this one, but some of the things, even theologically, I don't know how to make sense of it. For example, my mom was very, very, very sad, of course. She was only 44. That's not old. But she lost a husband, a very, very loving husband. And my dad had a lot of faith. We didn't have money, a big bank account. He didn't have a life insurance, but he believed that God will take care of his family. And he was ready to die. That requires a lot of faith. And that faith comes from a lot of prayer and being in God's presence. But my mom was very dependent on my dad. So she didn't know many things. My dad knew many things. For example, she didn't even know where the flashlight is. And in Iran, once every week or twice a week, the lights go off and you need a flashlight or you need a generator or something. And it was in the very first weeks when my dad had gone to be with the Lord, the lights went off. My dad was looking for a flashlight. And at that time, I was in a youth camp for a week. And we were not there. So my mom was alone. Then somehow she found the flashlight, I guess. But when I was in the youth group, I had a dream that my dad came to my dream and said, Gilbert, I miss all of you very much. And just tell mom where the flashlight is. The flashlight is here. And he showed me in my dream. He was behind some things. It was in a weird spot. I don't know why he was there, but it was there. When I came home, I'm like, Mom, I had a very weird dream. It probably doesn't make sense, but I'm happy I saw that in my dream. And then he said, this is where the flashlight was. My mom was in tears, a lot of crying. She was like, Gilbert, I was looking for the flashlight for a long time. I couldn't find it. And these things kind of was just showing God's love and care that, hey, I care. I know what happened. I'm involved in this. Not only that, but 3 months after that incident of the little girl, God spoke to me.
And before that, because there was you were in a special, when you lost your father, when he were killed, the last time you saw him, it wasn't the best time.
Unfortunately, my last conversation with my dad was a lie. Even though I loved the Lord as a teenager, and I truly was a good believer, but I was a teenager. And one day, I decided that with my friend who had come to Christ through me in the high school, his name was Edwin. He was a very, very bad person, but I shared the gospel with him. He came to Christ, he changed. We were best friends. But then with him, sometimes once in a while, we would ditch the school. We wouldn't go to school. We would go to a park and we would play, things like that. So one day I decided that me and Edwin, my friend, we would ditch the school. And that morning when my dad got up to go to airport to pick up somebody to bring him home, he said, Gilbert, I want to go to airport and your school is on the way. Do you want a ride? Because I usually went with bus. Then I lied. I said, no, Dad, my friend is coming and we'll go together. Then he said, I won't be late, it's okay. I was planning to go earlier to read a book, so I can wait for your friend to come. I'll give ride to both of you to school. I lied again. I said, oh, Edwin is coming. Edwin, my friend, he's always very, very late. And actually, I think today the school is starting late. And I was lying, and I'm lying. I was turning red because I'm not a good liar. And my dad realized that I'm lying. And he just looked at me in a very deep way. But it was not a fun way of looking. He was like, really, seriously, Gilbert, after all these things, is this the path you've chose to live? He looked at me, he's like, okay, bye. I'm like, okay, bye, I love you, Dad. So he left. And I left, and I ditched the school. When I came back from school, we realized that Dad did not make it to airport. For 12 days we couldn't find Dad. After 12 days we found his body 26 times stabbed, and he was a martyr. But even though my last conversation with my dad does not define my relationship with my dad, but Satan used that to define my relationship. So I had this guilt, a lot of guilt, that I lied to my dad. And I was not that expressive before that. So I didn't say, Dad, I love you. I wouldn't say that. Or I wouldn't say, Dad, thank you. I don't know why I was not expressive. And my dad was bothered by that, because he would sometimes share with my mom that I don't know why. I know Gilbert loves me very much, but he doesn't share, he doesn't express his love. He kind of is far. He doesn't come close. I don't know what's happening. So I don't know. I had a lot of regrets. Even up to this day, I have a lot of regrets, honestly. Love your dads. Express your emotions if your parents are living, because one day you might not have that chance. So I had that guilt also, because my mom had shared that with me beforehand. I don't know why I was. So I had the guilt of not sharing, expressing my love and my appreciation to my dad. I had that guilt of lying to my dad as a last conversation. And also...
Did you think that you could have avoided what happened if you joined him in the
that
car?
was the last guilt that I had. That even though I don't think that would be the case, but I'm like, if I listened to my dad, if I went with him, and maybe I don't know, those people would not grab my dad. Maybe they would see that there are 3 people in the car. They would skip that. Maybe my dad wouldn't die, even though I don't think that would be the case, honestly. It doesn't make sense. But at that time when you're weak, every thought comes to your mind and it just makes sense. And it's the work of the Satan. And I was so weak and I was allowing that to happen. 6 months later, when we were praying with family, every day we would pray with family. And we had a neighbor, a Christian neighbor, her name was Esther. Sister Esther would come to us every day, and she would kind of bring us to prayer, because we were not in the mood to pray because of all those troubling thoughts and the situation we were in. But she was coming there. So she was there in our house. So it's 5 of us, and Esther were praying. When the time came to me, I was not in the mood at all, because I was in those thoughts and those guilts constantly. And I just prayed a short prayer. After that, another person was praying. I went into my thoughts, and I was imagining how my dad died. And I unfortunately saw my dad's body. I had seen his body. So there was a scratch here. So I was making this film where the actor of this movie is my dad, and the actor is being killed. And I was kind of picturing how he died. So I'm like, probably he went like this, not to,
to protect his face. Yeah.
So that's why probably there was a scratch. There was a scratch here. I was thinking probably he went like this, and there was a scratch there. I'm like, probably he went like all those moves that probably were true, part of this movie. I was, playing this movie constantly, and
in
then
your mind.
in my mind. And that was bothering me, because this is my dad, and I'm picturing how he died. And not only how he died, but also if I was there that morning, maybe this wouldn't happen. So Gilbert, this is your mistake. And all these things. It was terrible. It was terrible. Until I heard a voice.
And that was in the prayer meeting.
Yeah. That voice very simply said, Gilbert. I opened my eyes. I looked around. There was nobody. It was just us praying. And nobody heard that voice. And nobody else was at home. So I thought, I'm going crazy. I'm a very logical person. Even though I believe in the supernatural a lot, but also I'm very, very logical. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is how people go crazy. I'm hearing voices. I'm not like that at all. And then I closed my eyes, and I was normal emotionally, but still I heard that voice again. Somebody said, Gilbert. It was as if a voice is behind a blanket. It's like muffled.
Mhm.
It was Gilbert, but it was a man's voice. I opened my eyes, I looked around, nobody was there. And at that moment I had a fear, a holy fear. I'm like, God, this is how you spoke to Samuel when he was little. Could it be that this is you? And it happened third time for Samuel. So God, if there's anything you want to tell me, tell me. I'll close my eyes again. If this is you, I will not open. Just continue telling me whatever you want to tell me. I was very, very afraid. Very, very. But in a fear, in a holy way, holy fear. And that same voice said, Gilbert, don't think about earthly things, but heavenly things. And I knew this is God, of course. I was in tears. That changed my entire life, even up to this day. I never went back to guess how my dad died. I was later persecuted. I was put in prison. I was beaten. I never go back. I never talk about those, how the torture happened, how they did this. It's not. Those are earthly things. I just mention it, that it was there, just for people to know, but it's not important because these are earthly things. And my mind went into heaven, where my dad is, what he's doing now. He's in comfort, where God is, where there's joy, where there's no pain, where there's no tear, where there's no badness, where there's no sin. That's where my mind needs to. God directly told me, Gilbert, don't think about these things. Think about heavenly things. So that changed the direction of my mind and my life. From that point on, it was very, very different.
So that affects you also today because heaven is more real and more close.
I even read a lot of books about heaven, especially this one book that I recommend to you also and to the listeners, to viewers. It's a book called Heaven. Randy Alcorn is the writer. It was very, very, very powerful. And yeah, my dad also had talked about heaven a lot, so I was listening to his messages, even though it was hard to listen. But yeah, my mind went to heaven, and that's the reality. I mean, I love books and I read books a lot, but I usually don't read the introduction of the books. It's one page, it's introduction about the book. I usually skip that and I go to the book. Our life on earth is the introduction. The rest of the book, the main thing is heaven. So that's the main thing. We even Jesus talked about it, that when you give, when you do all these things, you store up in heaven. That's the main thing.
I think that that is something I have learned from the persecuted part of the church, that heaven is so much closer, because heaven is the hope of glory. Heaven is where we are going. That's what we are working towards, and heaven is real. But in the Western church, we have what we need here, and we kind of may sometimes forget about that and build our life here.
Yeah, I wrote a song called Wake Up. I haven't done a music video on it, but it's on YouTube and it's on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere. The words of those lyrics are very, very close to my heart, because that's what happened to me when I came to the West. I thought that people in the West are so on fire for the Lord, but I saw that most of them are sleeping. They're not dead. They have the Spirit of God in them, so they are living. They have life, eternal life. They are awake. They are alive. But are we, am I awake? Most people are sleeping, and the comfort sings like a lullaby in this song. I start with that. It's like a lullaby, and we go, spiritually speaking, we go to sleep. We're alive, but we're sleeping. So that's why we make this home. We sleep here in this home on this earth. We plan things, we do things as if this is heaven.
Yeah.
But this is not.
I want to ask you, we are going to an end, and in the end we will play a song called Letter from Prison. And before that, what do you think that we can learn from the persecuted part of the church?
I think we can learn that Jesus is worth paying a price for. Jesus never said the road is easy. He said it's worth it, but it's not easy. So we also can learn that God will not leave us alone. We need to take steps of faith. We need to shine in this dark world. We need to be a salt. We need to be a light. And Jesus is the head. We are the body. And if someone is in pain, the head does not go to massage. The body will go there. We have to do something. We need to pray. I have so many stories. Because of time, I won't share those. But there is power in prayer. There is power in sharing. There is power in love. There is power in forgiveness. There is power in showing mercy. These are things that God has called the church, called us to do. And weird enough, the persecuted part of the church are doing more of these things, even though they are weaker. But because they are weaker, God's Spirit is working more powerfully in them and is showing. And we can learn. If we have resources, why not? We can use all those resources to use it for the kingdom. Because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about you. It's about the King of Kings, Jesus. And we're just representative of this King.
That is so true. And what is this song about?
I wrote this song for my friend Farshid when he went to prison, and he was in prison for 6 years because of his faith and his ministry. And I wrote it as if Farshid would write this. Yes, there is praise in it, which is the truth, but there is pain in it, which is the reality. And that is something about persecution. That is the truth of the gospel and also the reality, which is pain. We have that also a lot. But this song kind of is a balance of those two. And I hope that this will bless you and you also.
Thank you so much, Gilbert.
Thank
Og
you.
til dere som har fulgt oss denne halvtimen, ta inn denne musikkvideoen og budskapet som ligger i den, og vær med og be for våre søsken i Iran. Gud velsigne deg.
Deep into the fire, entered, walked with no regrets. Faith my only cover in the midst of all the threats. Singing hallelujah. Persecuted, not abandoned, struck down naked and mistreated, crushed but not destroyed. I kneel from a prison hole. Please keep reaching out to me. Don't leave me to defeat. These voices in my head won't give me any rest. Please don't give up on me now, 'cause I really don't know how to let go of my fears and be what God meant for me.